Let's take a breath together. You know, as I was getting up to speak, and just before Adam finished, I had a flash of a dream I had last night that when I stood up to speak, Paul started playing, and they wanted me to sing. And, and it was the wrong key, and I didn't know the words, and I was frantic. And everybody was sitting here with bated breath, waiting for me to get going with the song, and I was going. So and I just remembered that. Wow, and I made the decision, I'm not going to sing. So, so how about that for magic? I am not going to sing. Welcome to September. I'm not going to ask you if you can believe it, but it is September. Happy Labor Day weekend. And we are in September 1st already. Our theme for the month, as I said before, is the life-changing magic in decision. The life-changing magic in decision. And I call decision-making life-changing because it is. It's life-changing, making decisions. Decisions being defined as conclusions or at which we arrive after much consideration or resolve. The Science of Mind textbook defines decision as resolve, determination, a conclusion also. But it's just that, it's a conclusion that we reach, a decision that we make, determination that we make to do something or not, or to act in a certain way or not. And it's life-changing because we are making decisions every moment of every day throughout our lives. We're making decisions every moment of every day throughout our lives. Whether we know it or not, whether they're conscious or not, we're always making some kind of decision. So the topic today is decisions, decisions, decisions. Because that's what we're always doing. We're always making decisions. Some of them are momentous decisions, maybe. Big decisions about whether I'm going to change jobs or do something to further my career or get married or get divorced or start a family or move across the country 5 times or any other kind of decision that really may be really, really huge. Those are the kinds of things we think about when we talk about decision and how they change our lives. But all kinds of decisions like I'm making a decision to come to church today. Most of you made decisions to come to church today. Some of you may have just showed up. And that was a decision too. But a decision is always being made. What am I going to have for dinner? What street am I going to drive down? Which way am I going home today? Am I going to make a phone call? Am I going to do laundry? Whatever the case may be, there's a decision involved. Because before we can do anything, we have to make a decision about it. And because we act sometimes so out of habit and out of in a rote fashion, that we aren't aware. Sometimes we act so unconsciously, we aren't aware that we're always making decisions. And so what I want us to do this month is to become conscious of the decisions that we make. And as we become more conscious of the decisions we make more conscious decisions. We make more decisions that are in alignment with the things that we want in our lives, that are in keeping with how we want our lives to be, that are in keeping with living a richer, fuller, more successful life. And so I invite you to pay attention to the decisions that you're making over and over and over again, because it requires us to stay in the moment, and that's the only time you can change the decision that you're making right then, is by being in the moment and making another decision. And just so you'll know, not making a decision is a decision. To not make a decision. And that's where many of us find ourselves sometimes, just being in that place of indecisiveness. And when we're in a place of indecisiveness, that's really sort of a powerless place, because we can't make a decision. We think we may be making the wrong decision. We think we may be not doing what we really want to do. We think that somebody else's decision may be better, so we go around asking. Have you ever met somebody who asks everybody's opinion? They want everybody's opinion about what they should do and how they should do it and when they should do it and whatever. And that's because they're afraid of making a wrong decision. They're afraid of just making a decision, making up their mind about something. And as annoying as that can be sometimes, all of us get into that sometimes. So but we don't want to make a decision because we're afraid that, what if? What if this happens, or what if that's wrong, or whatever the case may be? And that's what keeps us stumped, and that's what keeps us away from that life-changing magic that decision can bring into our lives. So just beginning to really look at the fact that we're always making a decision, and the fact that we're deciding right in this moment to be indecisive is a decision, then we can really own our power and stand in our power and step into our power by deciding, I'm going to make a decision right now. I'm going to make a decision about whatever it is right now, and then making that decision, whatever it may be, in whatever area of life it may be. But think about it, it's very, very powerful to stand and make a decision, because once you make a decision, then everything changes. Everything changes. Once you make a decision, everything changes, because a decision has to be for you to do something different. It has to be for something different. So everything changes. When something changes, everything changes. And so just being in that place of decision making and knowing that it's okay for us to make a decision. In fact, it's powerful for us to make a decision. In fact, it's life-changing for us to make a decision. In fact, it's magic for us to make a decision. It's something that I really want us to keep in mind this month. The three things that we need to take a look at in making decisions is, the first thing is to know what you want, decide that you're going to have it, and then act on your decision to get what you want. Know what you want, decide that you're going to have it, and then act on that decision. Oftentimes, the knowing what we want is where we get hung up in the indecisiveness. We don't know what we want. We ask somebody else what we want. Nobody else knows what we want. Nobody else knows what's best for us. Only we know that. But knowing what we want, dare to know what you want and not allow it to be influenced or impacted in any way about how you're going to get it, or whether or not that's really something that you should want, or whether or not that's out of your reach, or all the reasons why you can't get it. Because, once you start looking at things you want, oftentimes the thing that first comes up is, well, you can't have that. Well, how are you going to get that? Well, how are you going to do that? Well, how are you going to do this? That's none of our business. The first thing in making a decision is knowing what you want. Just knowing what you want. You had to know that you wanted to come here in order to get here today. You had to know that you want to leave here in order to leave here today. That's the first step, is in knowing what you want. And it doesn't have, oftentimes when we think about knowing what we want, we think about big things, some big thing that we have to accomplish, some big goal. And yes, that's a part of knowing what we want. But it's about knowing what you want to have for lunch, knowing where you want to go for lunch, knowing anything. That's the first step. That is the first step in successful decision-making, successful living, is knowing what you want and not being afraid to know what you want, not being afraid to trust yourself, not being afraid to think about, oh, this is what I want, and then claim that. This is what I want. And then after we get into that place where we know what we want, and one thing about decision-making, one caveat that I'd like to just put in right here is that whatever we want is fine, so long as it does not belong to somebody else, so long as it doesn't impinge on another person's rights, so long as it's not hurting, harming, or endangering someone else, so long as, I guess, we're staying in our own lane, then whatever we want is fine. It's fine for us to want that, whatever it is. And so allowing yourself to want what you want. And if you need to get some clarity about what you want, then that's what your spiritual practice does for you. That's what your spiritual practice does. That's where spiritual practice comes in. I was giving you a quote from Ernest Holmes a couple of weeks ago, that there's that supreme intelligence within each of us that guides and guards and tells me what to do, how to act, when to act, and how to act. There's that supreme intelligence within that guides and guards and tells me what to do, when to act, and how to act. If we just keep that in mind, that there's a supreme intelligence within each of us that guides and guards and tells us what to do, when to act, and how to act, then we can not be so concerned about knowing what we want and claiming what it is we want. And then the next thing is to decide that you can have it. Decide that you're going to have it. Because before we decide we're going to have it, when we're just saying, I know what I want, it can be, I'd like to go on vacation someday. I'd like to have a new car. I'd like to lose 10 pounds. I'd like to go to the moon. I'd like to do whatever. That's just something we're saying. That isn't necessarily knowing what you want or deciding what you want. It's just saying, I'd like to have this. It's just a thought going through your mind. But when we make the decision, that's where the demonstration comes in. Decisions bring on demonstrations. When we make the decision, this is what I want. This is what I want. And being committed to that, this is what I want. I'm deciding this is what I want. I'm deciding I want a new car, and this is the kind of car I want. I want a new job, and this is the kind of job I want. I want to move to a new state, a different state, and this is where I want to move. And we always, as we make these decisions, we always keeping in mind those things that are for the highest and best for all concerned. So it's always this, Lord, or something better, particularly when we're talking about something specific or some place specific. Rather than outlining in what we're wanting and what we're deciding to have, we're saying this God or something better, so that we aren't limiting ourselves, but we are certainly making the decision, making the commitment, because the decision itself has the magic in it. Because once we make the decision, a decision is not really a decision until we act on it. That's the third step. Once we make the decision, make that commitment, then we've got to act. We've got to take action. We've got to take action. This is what treating and moving your feet is all about. When you treat and move your feet, you treat and then you got to do your part. You do treatment, you do your prayer work, and you got to do your part. And so you make a decision, and then you got to do your part, but you'll be guided to do what it is you need to do when you make that decision. You'll be guided to the right people, you'll be guided to the right place, you'll be guided to the right situation, you'll be guided to the right everything. Because Barker says in the book, The Power of Decision, that decisions are made by the conscious mind, and they are instructions given to the subconscious mind that we call the universe, or that we call God, that is always operating on that which is put into it by the conscious mind. And so when we make a decision, we're giving the subconscious mind, we're giving the universe, we're giving God the authority to act in our lives, to bring on what it is we say we want. If we start dabbling with it, having doubt and fear and pulling back and switching it around, we're taking that authority back, and then nothing happens. The water gets muddled. Everything gets out of kilter. So the important thing for us to do is make a decision, be committed to it, and take the action that we're being guided to take, because we're always, always, always being guided to take whatever action we need to take to do whatever it is, to accomplish whatever it is we say that we want to accomplish. There's always that knower within each of us that knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And everything starts to work together for good. Everything starts to work together to bring into our experience those things that we want, those things that we'd like to have, those things that we have decided that we want. Everything works together, that we don't even, in ways that we can't even know about, in ways we never even thought about, in ways we can't know. But everything starts to work. Everything starts to work. Everything starts to work. That's why there's so much magic in making a decision. Because once we make the decision, we give spirit, we give the universe the permission to work on our behalf and to bring into our experience that which we say we want. Let's take a breath a minute. I told you guys a story a few months ago about the knee replacement surgery that I had, and how my knee was injured in 1992, and I had the surgery in 2014. And all those years that I walked through that whole process of deciding that I was not going to have surgery, and didn't. Finally, I got real clear about what I wanted. And what I wanted was to be relieved of pain. So because I got real clear about what do I want the most, do I want to resist this surgery anymore, or do I want to be relieved of this pain? And so when I finally got clear about what I wanted, I made the decision, I'm going to have this surgery. Once I made the decision, everything opened up. I remember when I got home and I called my daughter and I told her I was going to have the surgery. She said, where are you going to have it? Who's going to do it? Are you going to go back? I had had surgery a few years before at the Stanford University Hospital. And she said, are you going back to the same doctor in Stanford? And I'm like, no, that's not where I'm going. But Spirit will tell me exactly where and exactly when and exactly who. I don't know yet, but I know that I'm having this surgery. And so I was real clear about that. I didn't set about trying to find a surgeon. I kept saying that the surgeon will appear. And when I hear his name, or her name, when I hear the name, that's what I said. When I hear the name of the doctor, I'll know who it is. I'll know when it's right. And so people would tell me, I had told other people that I was going to have the surgery, and different people would tell me names. They would recommend doctors. I asked other doctors for recommendations, and the names they would give me never worked. It was like, that's not the person. And so I just kept hobbling along on that injured knee, waiting for Spirit to tell me, when's the right doctor coming? When is this going to happen? And one night I took my sister to the emergency room. She had a flu. And while we were waiting at the counter, I said to her, I'm going to sit down because my knee really hurts. And so you can stand here and give the information. And when I said that, the person waiting on us said, oh, I know how you feel. I just had my knee replaced. And I said, really, who did it? And she told me the doctor's name. And as soon as she said it, it was like, that's the one. I knew instantly that that was the doctor. So I asked her about him. Was he there where we lived in the same area in California, in Santa Cruz? She told me all about him, told me where his office was located. And when I went home the next day, I called his office. He was nothing like I thought he would be, because I was used to going to the high-tech doctors with the high-tech equipment and all up at Stanford and wherever else. And I went to this doctor who was very much like a doctor I had grown up with in Alabama years ago, country doctor. And he was about to retire. And he brought me into his office. He didn't have a medical assistant. He had a nurse in his office. He had a receptionist. But he didn't have a fancy office. He didn't have a lot of fancy equipment. But we talked about my knee. He sent me out for x-rays. And then when I came back in for him to take a look at the x-rays and show them to me, he had them on his cell phone among pictures of his little granddaughters. So he would scroll up, and he'd show me a picture of his granddaughters, and he'd show me a picture of my knee. And then he showed me a picture of his granddaughter, and then he showed me a picture of my knee. And I kept wondering, God, are you sure? Are you sure? You sure this is the right doctor? This is the one I'm supposed to have? But I knew in my heart of hearts that this was the right one. And so I went home and got my daughter, and we came back for another appointment for her to approve it. And she said, you know, it's something about him that I really like. I said, I do too. There's something about him that I really like. And his name is just the name the Spirit keeps telling me is the right one. So at any rate, when I agreed to have him be my surgeon, the important thing that I'm trying to get to is that he had a technique that he used where I went in for a CAT scan. They take a CAT scan of the knee, and then they send it out to Switzerland. And in Switzerland, they make a joint that is specifically designed for my body. I had never heard of anything like that. They made the joint that was specifically designed for my body so that when it comes back, it's going to fit perfectly into my body. He says it's not like pulling a part off a shelf for a car. it's like this one is made specifically for your body, and it's going to fit specifically. So everything is done by computer. So here's this doctor again who was showing me my knee on a cell phone, who had this knew of this advanced technology, and I was in a place of just trusting that God's got this. God's guiding this. And so sure enough, they took a CAT scan of my knee, they sent it off, they brought it back. I had the surgery, he put that part in. He does all of his own hospital visits. He does all of his own bandaging. He does all of his own wrapping. He does everything himself. Other doctors didn't do that, but he did. He was the one who took care of me, the only one who took care of me. That joint was put in perfectly. There was no problem, no pain, none of the stuff you go through after surgery. I didn't have any of that. A friend of mine came the night of the surgery and spent the night at the hospital with me, thinking that I would be out of it. And we giggled most of the night, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, the nurse was bringing us a pudding to have and asking us to please keep it down because there were other patients. This is unheard of. 2 days later, I was home. I used a walker in the hospital, but I never had to use a walker. I used a crutch periodically, but I had that knee that my daughter reminds me, God gave you 2 knees that were made, 3, that were made perfectly, specifically for your body. And so I had the 2 knees I was born with, and then I had another knee that was made specifically for my body. That's the magic, the life-changing magic. I've never had a problem with this knee. I've never had a problem after the surgery. I recovered almost instantly. Everybody was amazed, including the doctor, how quickly I recovered. And I know that it was because I said yes, and then I took action. I was open to finding the doctor. I was open to going through the processes that I needed to go through in order to have that surgery, and then everything lined up. Everything worked perfectly. That's where the magic is. Do you know what I'm saying? That's where the magic is in any decisions that we make. Any decisions that we make, there's magic in making that decision because everything changes. Heaven and earth are moved so that it can be brought to us, that which we desire. Heaven and earth are moved, reorganized, it seems. Schedules are reorganized. People come in who weren't supposed to be there. All kinds of things happen when we make decisions and when we decide this is what I want. And knowing that in that decision-making process, we are trusting God because we've turned it over to God. Once we say, I decide this is what I want, then we turn it over. We move our feet to the degree that we need to, but all the how-tos is done by the divine. All the how-tos are done by the universe. All the how-tos are taken out of our hands. That's where the magic is in the decision. I walked around for 22 years with that knee hurting until I decided that I'm going to do something about this pain other than what I've been doing and resisting and all that. And so I'm saying to you, if there's an area in your life in which you are being indecisive, in which you are making the decision to be indecisive, you can change that. You can change your life right here, right now. You can change your life right here, right now. Just think about areas that you need to make a decision about, that you need to get off the dime and do something. You need to be committed to a decision. Make a decision and then be committed to it. And then once you make that commitment to it, be open to taking whatever action you are guided to take, because you will know exactly what to do. People will come out of nowhere to help you. You will have all the support you need. You will have everything, because God provides for itself over and over and over again in so many ways that we don't even know about. Once we make a decision and turn it over to God, we need to let God be God in that situation. And when we let God be God, God knows how to take care of itself. And so God knows how to take care of itself as each one of us, according to whatever it is we say we want, according to whatever demands we make upon the universe, according to whatever authority we give to God to act in our lives. God knows how to do that. And so I invite you, in addition to taking a breath in this moment, I invite you to think about what it is you want. What do you want? Know what you want. Know what you want. And if you're not clear about what you want, get clear about what you want. Take it into prayer. Talk to a practitioner. Have a practitioner pray with you, counsel with you, whatever it is you need to get clear about what it is you want. What it is you want. And then make a decision, I'm going to have that. I want to be happy. I'm going to have happiness. I want to be healthy. I'm going to have health. I want to be prosperous. I'm going to be prosperous. And then act on that. What steps do I need to take to be prosperous? What steps do I need to take to be happy? What steps do I need to take to have a wonderful career? What steps do I need to take? And God will guide you to the steps that you need to take. And so I invite you today to just think about decisions, decisions, decisions. You're always making them. You're always making them. Make sure that the ones you're making are the ones you want to experience, the things that you're deciding on are the things you really, 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 really want in your life. Make that decision and then do what is necessary for you. Act on it. Because a true decision, as I said, is not a decision without action to back it up. So another way to say it, as I said, is treat and move your feet. Make a decision and act on it. And watch the magic that will happen in your life. Let's take a breath and turn within. Just breathing into that place of just knowing the magic of knowing that God is all there is. And there is magic in that. When we come to that awareness, that knowledge that God indeed is all there is. The only power, the only presence, the only life, the only activity, the only knower is God. This only is my very life. This only is the life of each of us here this day. This only is the life of all, the source of all. And so knowing this truth, I speak the word for each of us this day. That we stand in the knowing that there's a supreme intelligence that knows exactly what to do. It guides and guards us and tells us exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And so trusting in this knowingness, trusting in this supreme intelligence, I speak a word for each of us this day to be bold in making decisions, to be conscious in making decisions about how we want our lives to look, how we want our lives to be, what we want our lives to be like, how we want it to unfold. And there is that within us that knows how it is to unfold. And in this knowing that we have, we release and let go of the fear and the doubt and the uncertainty and those things that would block us, those things that would hold us back. And we allow the courage and the audacity and the hope and the love and the joy and the peace to fill us up. We allow ourselves to be guided by that divine light that is all around us and completely indwells us. We allow healing to happen in every aspect of our lives. Doesn't matter what has happened in the past. We bring ourselves into the present and just allow ourselves to be healed in the here and in the now. God is in the here and in the now. And we move into that place of knowing and oneness with God in the here and in the now. And this is how healing is happening for each and every one of us. This is how healing goes out into the world. This is how healing transforms everything. And so as I open this circle of prayer, I pause momentarily so that you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may speak their names silently or loud, and you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names were spoken here this day, I know that God is blessing and keeping them. But God is in the midst of every situation and circumstance. This word goes out to anyone in the path of a hurricane, affected by the most recent violence here in this country and beyond. I know that God is everywhere present, that healing is happening in every situation and every circumstance. And so I simply say thank you, Father, Mother God, for the blessings of our lives. Thank you for the healing that is happening in our lives. Thank you for the healing that's happening on this planet, for the hearts that are healed by this word that's being spoken, for the anger that's released, and the love that replaces it. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for everything. I'll just allow it to be now. And so it is.